I'm Jacqueline Russell, and this is my family tree story. So I come from many, many, many generations of Texans. We actually don't have a whole lot of information about our family before we really sort of took hold in Texas in the mid 1800s. Well, my mother's side in Hill Country in Texas, we have some old photographs of some family members standing in front of a log cabin, holding lots of babies. So that's my mom grew up, she was one of five. She was the second to youngest child. Her grandfather, James Traylor, had been a contractor, one of the first contractors in Dallas, Texas, to build homes for people. So they lived really well. And then the Depression hit and things went very badly for them, and they lost everything because they had personally mortgaged all of the homes that they built for people. So they lost everything. My mother's mother passed away when my mother was about 4 years old, and her father suffered from tuberculosis and was put into a sanatorium. And my mother and two of her other siblings were then taken to an orphanage. And she never saw her youngest brother, who was a baby, ever again. He was adopted. And the oldest sibling, my aunt Lucy, she stayed with the grandfather, who was very elderly at that point. And so the three kids in the orphanage, they tried to stay together as much as they could. My mother was very sick a lot and was in and out of hospitals, and did have experiences in foster homes, and had some really beautiful stories of families that would take her in and look after her, for short periods of time. But she really never really knew having a home life at all. And then when my aunt Lucy, when she turned 21, she married a man named Frank Hart. And they then went and became my mother's legal guardians. So they immediately went to the orphanage and took my mother in. And my mother at that point was about 16 years old. And so she lived with them for quite some time. And she then enrolled in college. She wanted to be a journalist, which was kind of amazing for a really very shy woman. But she was really excited and fancied herself as some kind of great, girl reporter. And while she was waiting for the bus one day to go to college, it was raining, and she went inside a little coffee shop, which is kind of an exaggeration. It was really a trailer that had some stools on it, I think. And my father was serving coffee and started flirting with my mom. So that's how they met. And my dad, so my mom's name that time was Marvinelle Traylor. And my dad was Jack Russell. And my dad also grew up in Texas, outside of Dallas, in Arlington. And his mother died when he was just a couple of years old. And this was again during the Depression. And his father did what they called wandered off. So a lot of men in the Depression, when they just couldn't work and had lost everything, they would just leave. And so his father left, and he was raised by his mother's family of siblings. So he had these really loving aunts and uncles that took care of him. And so one of them owned this little coffee spot, and that's where my dad was working when he met my mother. But that was after he had served in the war. And my dad became a Marine at a very young age and was on Midway the day it was attacked, and basically fought in the entire war. And so he very much identified as a Marine at that time in his life. And he was very fortunate. First of all, he was fortunate to survive. And I wouldn't be here if he hadn't survived that attack on Midway. And so he then went back and got his degree through the GI Bill and became an engineer. And so he went to SMU, which is a really terrific school for engineering. And so he was, really building a life for himself, and convinced my mother to marry him. My mother was really young. She was about 19, but I think she really felt pressure to move on and get out of her sister's house. She was very grateful to them, but felt that that was really kind of hard for them to be taking care of a young girl too. So she married my dad, and then she had 3 daughters, and I am the youngest of those 3. So I have 2 older sisters. So my mom, became a mom, and she never finished college, which I think she always really regretted. And they, after I was born, my family moved to Beirut, Lebanon. And I grew up very young. I was there until I was about 4, and I grew up speaking Arabic and French. And my mom was very busy with having my older siblings who were teenagers. So I was cared for very much by our Lebanese housekeeper. She really took care of us and took care of me. And so when we came back to the States when I was 4, it was very traumatic for me to leave Josephine, because I was very, very attached to her. And so I grew up then in Houston, and my sisters went on to college eventually, but neither one of them went all the way through initially. One stopped to pursue some career interest, and my other sister stopped to get married and have a family. But I fell in love with theater in high school, and my parents got divorced, and that was a really very traumatic and sad time in my life. And theater really became this incredible outlet for me and an escape. And I fell in love with my high school drama friends and my drama teacher. And we went to New York City, and life just changed for me. I never felt at home in Texas, which is crazy because I'm just all Texan. But when I got to New York, I found myself, and I wanted to be on Broadway. I wanted to be a big star. And I studied theater for about a year, and then decided that I needed to go to college. And I went to NYU, and I wanted to learn more about directing. And I felt that there weren't a lot of opportunities for women actresses, and actually found there were a lot fewer opportunities for women in the film industry as well. But I loved the work. I loved collaborating. And my father then was killed in a boating accident. And so he was killed a month after I graduated from college. And it was a huge shock. And I really did not have a safety net. I had expected that I would be able to do a lot more interning and doing work for free to, build on a career, but I had to get a job right away, and ended up working in publishing and just doing a lot of different things. And then I left my dream of being an artist behind for a while, but then I actually got engaged and married to a guy who was moving to Chicago to be a professor at DePaul. And so I came to Chicago, and thanks to that move, I was able to get back into the arts, and I was able to get a job at Old Town School of Folk Music. And then I ended up at Looking Glass Theater, and then I got to start the Chicago Children's Theater. And so I was able to put arts back into my life and have my own daughter, my daughter Khoury, that I've been really fortunate to be a mom and a theater maker, and kind of live a dream that I think my mother would have been really, really happy to see me living. And that's my family tree story. And I'm really happy that you're now part of it.